This is the HAN Network, the leader for local news, sports, arts, and entertainment in southwestern Connecticut and beyond. I had to remind myself which microphones to turn on. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network with Donald Eng. I'm Rob Adams. It is a Monday edition of the program as we get things started October 12th. And, of course, happy Columbus Day to you and yours, wherever you may be. Hope you are doing whatever it is you do on Columbus Day, Don.
I broadcast Nutmeg Sports. How about you?
Yes, and then I broadcast soccer. That's it.
Well, good afternoon, Robert. How are you doing today?
I'm actually quite okay.
The sun is shining. The tank is clean. It's just a great day to be broadcasting.
It is. You know, it's a great day for a show. It's a beautiful day outside. I took a walk a moment ago to go grab some lunch, which hopefully is out of our shot. But, you know, it is. It's a beautiful day. We're going to have fun at the soccer game later on. So, yeah, you know, that's where we are.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
How was your weekend?
It was exciting. You know, that with all that implies good and bad. Elizabeth had her little peewee 8-year-old cheerleading competition, and you know her little team. Her team nailed their performance, but it wasn't looking good for a while there. In warm-ups, their warm-up time was just short of tragic. Little cheerleaders were crying. They couldn't hit their stunts. They were hitting the ground like Walendas off the wire. It wasn't pretty, but you know the lights came on and the girls nailed it, and they had a great time. They were just so excited when they finally were done. And the good news for me is that I will now have a week off after my first one since August with no cheer dad activities scheduled.
Aww.
Now my weekend wasn't nearly as cool as yours though.
Well, no, now that you mention it, it was a pretty darn cool weekend for us here around the HAN network, and we were at Rivera Toyota and Scion in Mount Kisco, New York. Beautiful place, 325 North Bedford Road, sits right in my neck of the woods, so it was kind of my sweet spot on Saturday, but obviously the star of the show was a gentleman named Mariano Rivera.
The great Mariano.
He is the great Rivera. That is for sure, the great Mariano. And he was so, you know, really wonderful, classy to talk to. Everything I kind of knew, although a little intimidating at first. And, you know, everybody was kind of saying to me, are you okay before and after? And to be honest, not that I'm jaded, because I'm not. I feel very fortunate. But it's not my first time talking to, you know, I've talked to Hall of Famers before. I've interviewed Dan Marino. I've interviewed Y.A. Tittle, of all things, you know. So, you know, I've Terry Bradshaw, a lot of people that I've had the opportunity to speak with. But Rivera, right before he came on the air, said to me, how long do you need me? And I said, well, how long do you have, Mariano? And he said, not long. And I went, oh, okay, that half hour I was promised might not be reality after all. So, but in the end, it seemed like he enjoyed it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. That's what people have told me, that it seemed like he enjoyed the conversation, had a nice time, seemed very loose and fun. And you know, I don't want to hit the hard stuff with people like that, you know? I suppose there are a few tough things. If time really allowed, I would have liked to have talked a little more about CC Sabathia, the current Yankees, you know, things that I think would have been good for him, but it was nice to hit the things that we hit.
Right. And, you know, well, you know, I mean, I'm sure he's a busy guy. He likely, you know, wasn't nervous or had to catch a stage fright. We know he's impervious to that.
No, that's for sure. Boy, does he know what he's doing. And, outstanding to just talk with him, and he was very gracious. Took a picture with the entire crew. I saw that he took a solo picture with Kathy Kovac, as well as my nephew and my son. I should have sent those pictures over to AJ, in fact, to pop them on the air, because those were pretty cool. You know, when my son shook his hand, he kind of turned around, looked at me, and I've mentioned this before. My son is not a sports fan. He's not, but for whatever reason, I said Sean, and I didn't even have to point, and Sean went, oh my God, that's him. He knew it. You know, he recognized him and shook his hand and then said, I'll never wash this hand again. And it was Mariano who said to him, hey, come on back over here. Let's take a picture together. which was pretty cool. So
that is pretty cool, and it's nice to see guys that from everything you hear, everything you read, he's just a genuine guy, just an all around nice guy. He had that farewell tour with everything that involved and all those folks he met, and just the appreciation he got from everyone on even from opposing teams. To just kind of recognize that a talent, a person like him just doesn't come along every day.
No, I agree. And he really is a once-in-a-lifetime person on so many levels because, as you said, doing that farewell tour that he did, it seemed more like he wanted to do it for the fans. He wanted to sit, and he went to each stadium and sat with people who wouldn't normally get the attention. The ushers, the stadium workers, even the season ticket holders, various people that wouldn't get to meet a Mariano Rivera. So it really was this cool experience. And then to understand and we all knew he was a very spiritual man to begin with. So to chat with him and ask him, for instance, about he suffered a couple of the biggest losses you'll ever know in the sport of baseball or sports. He's responsible. Let me not say he's responsible.
Well, wait a second. Wait,
well,
yeah.
He's partly responsible for 2001. Big throwing error in that ninth inning.
Yes.
And then gives up the little bloop single
They
against.
Still haven't hit a ball out of the infield against him.
The little bloop single against the drawn-in infield, which was just, I still cringe at that drawn-in infield, and there are other things I cringe at from that inning. But, that was a big loss. And a loss in a World Series that I didn't think the Yankees should win because Arizona was a better team by far, actually. But that's not how it goes sometimes. 2004 against the Red Sox, it's the Dave Roberts stolen base. That's the thing that, more so than the second night where he allows the sacrifice fly for the blown save. It's and obviously 97 against Andy Alomar Jr., the home run to right in the division series. But he was, his answer, it might be in our package. I don't want to give anything away. We're going to show you a highlight reel that Eric Gendron edited up for us. And then on Friday during FCAC Tailgate, which has a change of address this week, we will rerun the entire interview. And it is available, of course, in the archive, but just keep your eye out for it. So, humbly, it was one of the cooler interviews I've ever been a part of. And with all that said, AJ's got it all lined up and ready to go. Let's hear from the great Mariano. Welcome back to this special edition of Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network. I'm Rob Adams at Rivera Toyota, 325 North Bedford Road in Mount Kisco, New York. Sign also available here as well. The zip code 10549, and the gentleman standing to my left certainly needs no introduction to many throughout New York and the metropolitan area, baseball fans as well, Mariano Rivera. Mariano, thank you for a few minutes.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Tell me about getting involved in being, working with cars and running a car dealership.
Well, first of all, I always liked cars since I was a little one. And believe it or not, I wanted to be a car mechanic.
Really?
Yes, but the Lord has different things for me. So, since I couldn't do that, met a friend of mine, Kenny Hicks and Angelo Farmisano, that they introduced me to this dealership. Matter of fact, I bought my first Toyota car from here prior.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's ironic, am I right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was interested. So, what? Kenny has been in the business for over 30 years. Mm-hmm. So I said, I think I would love to do that.
Important. And you've been a Westchester guy for years. So many Yankees have come to Westchester County. Yourself, New Rochelle. Why come up this way?
Well, Westchester because, in Westchester County, to be specific, in New Rochelle, a friend of mine, his family, his name is Joe Fusina. Mm-hmm. He introduced me. He lives in New Rochelle. So he introduced me to New Rochelle. He brought me to New Rochelle in 1995. So I fell, and then I met Angelo and Kenny that same year. So, and many other people. So I fell in love with the town because they welcomed me like I was one of them. And for that moment to this point, I always been around and trying to help and giving back because it's like home for me.
Do you ever look at your career or your life and say, all these moments are just so ridiculous, 96 coming up in the great team there in the heart of that Yankee team, then the core 4 run of 98 to 2000, then that moment. the All-Star game at Citi Field. I mean, so many treasured moments. And I know you're a man of faith. You must feel, to a certain extent, whether it's luck or the good Lord, somebody's been really good to you.
Oh, yeah, the good Lord. I don't call it luck. I call it the good Lord, because he has been protecting me and guiding me through my whole life. So, I mean, yes. And when I think about it, I have to stop, because it's I can't comprehend.
Yeah.
I can't understand all that happened to me and my career and with the New York Yankees. But at the same time, I was thankful to the good Lord, because he was the one that made it happen for us.
And you've created a church as well. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, I mean, the church, we just rebuilt a church that was there before. Mm-hmm. It was abandoned for 40 years, old Presbyterian church. And it's been built since 1904. And we just went there. We needed a place to gather in our congregation. And we did. We renovated. And now it's a beautiful place. It is a gorgeous place in New Rochelle. And yes, everybody is welcome there. You know, it's no race, there's no language that you cannot come there and glorify the name of the Lord. So, I mean, we have tremendous willing to help. And that's the will of the church.
With you. But the one question I said I would ask you, toughest hitter against you?
Toughest hitter against me, I will say Edgar Martinez.
Oh.
Edgar Martinez for the Seattle Mariners.
Boy, he was good.
He was great. He was great. Besides, he was great. He was a good man.
Yeah.
And it was difficult to pitch to him, because, you know, you see him as a good hitter also, but you see him as a good guy. You know, and when you have guys like that, it's hard. You just don't you don't want it to do. You're always wishing good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the sense, and I know that I have to get him out, but at the same time, it's like, but at the end, lately, I mean, of his career, I was able to get him out more often, and I think we got a little bit better, because his number was ridiculous against me.
This is a great day for you, and you're so gracious to give us your time. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but, you know, and I'm a Yankee fan at heart, so standing here chatting, it's been a great honor.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, thank you very much for having me, and thank you for spending time with us here today.
It's been our pleasure. That. Thank you, Mariano.
Thank you. Thank you.
The great Mariano Rivera. We'll take a time out here on Nutmeg Sports. We'll come back right after this on the HAN Network. On Nutmeg Sports, we'll stay here for just a moment, then we'll take a break. And again, the whole thing, not because I have anything to do with it, but the whole interview is worth watching.
It really is. I mean, just the clips you saw there were fascinating, giving just amazing insight into, like, you know, someone that you've seen and watched for 2 decades, but never really heard from very much, and that really was just something to see. Yeah,
and I like the things that we covered. I don't think it's in that package, but asking him about the 76 Reds against the 98 Yankees was hysterical. You got to see it for yourself, just because of the way he handled it. And I remember saying to myself, a lot of athletes and a lot of coaches wouldn't like that question. They might deflect it. You know, there are a lot of guys who would say, I don't get into comparing, but Mariano gave me an answer, and it was pretty firm. Pretty firm.
And my guess is Joe Morgan wouldn't have liked it very much.
Joe Morgan would not be pleased. We really will take a time out here on Nutmeg Sports. We've got some football stuff to do, a change of venue for this Friday's game, along with a couple of news and notes that we want to get to as well. Some good stuff. Don and I come back right here on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network.
It's time to come back to hometown banking, where people are taken into account, not just balances. Where community comes first. A place where there's more than one kind of interest. Where automation will never replace consideration. Where they not only know your name, they know your dog's name too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well.
Alliance. We are an industry leader in coordinating transportation for large events such as corporate roadshows, conferences, and special events. Our team of experts understands the dynamics and logistics of high-pressure situations and complex arrangements, all within a rapidly changing environment. Since 1999, we have added charter jets, event management, and personal protection to our range of services. Mention this ad for $25 off your next round-trip reservation. Alliance and you. Together, we can achieve the extraordinary. 855-546-6996 or alliancelimo.com.
Tired of all the bull? Relax and enjoy the experience of buying a car at Panby Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram. No bull allowed.
Kycote Rockefeller Estate is Westchester County's top cultural attraction and is now open for the season. Don't miss out. Go online to hudsonvalley.org to plan your visit. Take a drive out to beautiful Sleepy Hollow, New York, and enjoy Kycote's stunning architecture, breathtaking gardens, expansive art galleries, and commanding Hudson River views. From world-class art by Picasso and Warhol to expertly tended gardens, there's something for everyone. Kycote Rockefeller Estate, a National Trust for Historic Preservation Landmark.
Have no fear. HAN Network's Fast Frights movie contest is here. Can your film make the cut? Submit your 3-minute scary movie today for a chance to win a DJI Phantom 3 drone, sponsored by Milford Photo. The only thing to fear is missing the deadline.
Back with you on Nutmeg Sports.
Sometimes I'm really happy that the mics have on and off switches.
Believe me, I made sure I looked at the microphone levels, the pots as we call them in the business. AJ, you want to make sure yours works?
Am I working? Yo, yes, I am.
See? Nice and rich. Good to hear from you. All right, Monday edition of the show. Couple of news items we want to get to before we roll along here, Don.
Yeah, well, the first is Arkell Newsome of Ansonia, a sophomore running back at UConn, was named the American Athletic Conference Player of the Week for special teams.
Right.
Newsome, as I said, he plays running back. He actually had a very productive game against Central Florida. UConn rolled to a 40-13 win down at Disney. Newsome, 13 carries for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also caught 2 passes for 67 yards, including a 58-yarder, and he returned 3 kicks for 106 yards with a 71-yarder thrown in there. You know, I love to see these guys that we covered in high school going on. I mean, it's like, I think to myself, I sat in the mayor's office when he got presented with a little certificate, and
right.
And now here he is. I'm watching his highlights on ESPN. That's one of the pretty cool aspects of covering local news.
It is, and for what I've done, I called his last high school game.
Right.
Was the state championship that he beat Woodland in, if I remember, it was 44-12 or something like that.
He's a small guy.
Yes, he is, and had the dumb luck of broadcasting Dan Orlovsky's last game, and there's Orlovsky playing yesterday, subbing for Matt Stafford, as Stafford got benched for the Lions, and then obviously the John Sullivan stuff I did. So, yeah, you're right. There are other examples.
Oh, sure.
The opportunities of what we get to see and where they go from here. It's kind of it's fun,
right? And particularly for someone like Arkell Newsome, because he's coming out of Ansonia, blue collar, small town, and they're one of those teams. They're one of those teams in Connecticut that they have their harsh critics and they have their staunch defenders.
Yes.
And I understand that as football leagues go, the Naugatuck Valley is a step ahead of the pure prairie. But I mean, the level of competition being what it was, you could tell just watching him that he was special, and it's just a thrill to see him on a bigger stage. Just doing what he does.
Where does it rank near the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Probably, I think right above the Human League.
Oh, above the Human League.
Right.
Very nice. Well, that's true. You're only human. Of flesh and blood you're made. Anyway, carry on from there. What else do we have?
Well, we also have in Monroe, the town I cover when I'm not talking Nutmeg Sports, a Monroe cross-country runner named Colin Raymond, a 14-year-old sophomore at the school, has been suspended for the final 2 meets of the season for participating in a charity 5K, the Run for Project Warmth in Monroe. It was a trail run, and this kid, this was his first year running cross country. He was a soccer player up until last year, and then realized that he enjoyed the conditioning runs more so than he enjoyed playing soccer. So he joined the cross country team. Well, at this charity 5K that he participated in, a coach on an opposing team saw him and turned him into the CIAC for unauthorized participation in a meet or race. Now, he clearly participated in the event, whether it would actually be considered a race. These charity 5Ks happen all the time. Well, there's a petition online to get him reinstated that has garnered 1,126 supporters as of about 2:20 this afternoon, including the first selectman of Monroe. And essentially, they're just saying that, let him race. The rule is Section 3-B of the CIAC handbook. Athletes may not participate in a meet or race not sanctioned by the CIAC in season. So if you consider the Monroe race for Project Warmth, or it was a run/walk for Project Warmth, if you consider that a meet or a race, then he's guilty. Most people don't, but an awful lot of support in the Monroe community for this 14-year-old kid kicked off his team for participating in a charity 5K.
Right, because at the age of 14, he wants to screw around and run a meet that would basically jeopardize his running ability. Come on, I mean, that's straight out of the NCAA idiocy.
Right, exactly. It's like, and I know that there has to be a policy and a zero tolerance rule in place for every conceivable infraction, but I'm one of those guys. I'm comfortable making decisions on a case-by-case basis.
I am too.
And a 5K run for Project Warmth, in my mind, would not qualify as a meet or race that violates the CIAC handbook.
No, I don't see where it is either. It makes absolutely no sense to me. It's too bad. It really is. Another news item from around the area. Did you know, unless you watched Coffee Break earlier today, were you aware that a new hockey league started yesterday?
I am not.
The National Women's Hockey League began its play yesterday with 4 teams in the Northeast. In fact, you've got a team in Buffalo, the Buffalo Buttes, the Boston Pride. You've got the New York Riveters and the Connecticut Whale.
And now that you mention it, we did know that one of the Connecticut Whale members was a guest on Coffee Break or Nutmeg,
right?
Way back in those halcyon days of March.
Well, anyway, they are off and running. They played yesterday, and the first goal in the history of the NWHL was scored by Jessica Koizumi at Chelsea Piers down in Stamford, as the Connecticut Whale beat the New York Riveters 4-1. And I'm telling you, I not only do I love the Connecticut Whales logo because it looks just very reminiscent of the old Hartford Whalers, which we're just going to keep playing. Anything we do to kind of resurrect the Whalers around this state, we're going to do everything in our power.
I was going to do they skate out to Brass Bonanza?
I am not sure. I can check on that.
If they don't, they should.
I actually happen to know their play-by-play voice. I watched some of the broadcasts yesterday. My buddy Phil Jubileo, who was the voice of the Sound Tigers until this past year, and the less I say, the better. And beyond that, the Riveters. I love their logo because go look at the old classic Rosie the Riveter. And that is the logo on the front of the sweaters.
Oh, gun show.
Yes. The gun show, indeed. So, very cool. And they had a good crowd down there at Chelsea Piers. So, best of luck to them. They will play every Sunday. Some games home, some games on the road. 4-team league, and I think it's great.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at some pictures here. The website is nwhl.co for the National Women's Hockey League.
Yep,
and you can find out the information there. You can find the rosters, the teams, the schedule, stats, and yeah, there was an excellent turnout. I'm quite impressed.
Yeah, like I said, I watched a chunk of the broadcast with Phil, and just really cool stuff. And the crowd was into it. They had a long autograph session after the game, Phil was saying. So good job by them, and best of luck, and hopefully a big season for them as they try to get a little something going. And look, we continue to see where women's sports has a place. The problem is every now and then we see it get to the NCAA level that, women's basketball will draw 15, 17,000, 20,000 to a championship game, right, or a bigger game. Sometimes in the old days, we said halcyon a moment ago, the halcyon days of Tennessee and UConn, you could draw a big crowd for that. You could get them either Gamble or even the old Hartford Civic Center for a game like that. But so often, the running gag is, look what's going on with the WNBA. They're drawing flies.
Right. They draw fairly well in Connecticut and New York, but then again, a lot of these other places they just don't. And I think part of the problem is I think there's the natural there's a natural inclination to compare the two, like to compare the WNBA
Yeah, and
to the
that's not
NBA,
fair.
and that's not fair. It's a different sport. That's same thing with like the women's basketball, things like that. It's a different sport. It deserves to stand on its own without having to be compared to something else. So that's but yes, as we were saying, great to see the Connecticut Whale and the National Women's Hockey League getting going here. We'll have to get one of them on one of these days.
I think that'd be a great idea. As for the football change that I mentioned, and we've mentioned it a couple of times, but it is now a very firm thing. This Friday, we will start our coverage with FCAC Tailgate at 4 o'clock, and we will move to FCAC Game Day at 5 o'clock. And in fact, that FCAC Tailgate will be hosted in part by the gentleman across the way. At least I think so.
Yes, the very exciting development. I'll be making my return, like Napoleon from Elba, my return to FCAC Tailgate.
Yes, indeed. Anyway,
Exactly like that.
Yes. And then at 7 o'clock Friday night, we will be back at Lancaster Field at Tiger Hollow for the Trinity Catholic Crusaders and the Ridgefield Tigers. 7 o'clock Friday night, Chris Irway and I on the call at Tiger Hollow. Tailgate at 4, game day at 5, kickoff at 7. So, and, at this time of year, part of that is due to making adjustments to the schedule and finding the games that best suit us. But you also have to keep in mind, folks, and this is very serious, where do we get the connectivity to be able to do a game? And that's a big factor in this brave new world for us.
Well, it really is, and unfortunately, that kind of keeps us away from some locations and kind of gets us into some of the other ones more often. But as a lot of these schools pick up more with their audiovisual and with a lot of these programs, I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get to a lot more places and have a lot more, get a lot more attention to a lot of these kids that deserve it.
And I can't stress enough, every school that we have come in contact with has been very accommodating to helping us. What they did for us at Danbury on Friday, they just couldn't have done enough, from Chip Salvestrini, the athletic director, all the way down. Great people there on Friday, made us feel super comfortable at Danbury High School. And the same has gone for all the other schools that we've been to. Everybody trying to work with us to make sure we can connect and get out what we think is a pretty darn good product.
Well, this will be my first visit to Ridgefield's Tiger Hollow, so I'm certainly looking forward to that.
I think you are going to like it a great deal. It's a good place. It really is.
That's what I've heard. It's one of the really nice places in the state to watch a high school football game. Along that, the Surf Club. There's a couple of places that people really like.
Wow, the Surf Club is great. I'm a big fan of the Surf Club.
The Surf Club does. That's where you tailgate after the game.
Yeah, you do. The traffic there can be pretty abysmal. And of course, Boyle Stadium, but I've talked about Boyle Stadium too many times to count. Let's see. What else do we need to get to as we move along on this Monday edition of Nutmeg Sports? We have soccer coming up at 5 o'clock today. Different start time today. Norwalk goes up and takes on Fairfield Ludlow. And again, talk about a comfortable place to broadcast. We've had good success at Fairfield Ludlow's Taft Field, so we will be there for that later today as we jump back into soccer.
Soccer, and then what do we have for the rest of the week? We have...
I
just drew a blank here. As we all just think, where are we going?
I'm making a face at AJ. Go ahead, AJ.
I think we can announce it.
Okay, yeah, we're cross country tomorrow. Is
Yes.
that what you're saying? Yes, cross country tomorrow. Waveney Park in New Canaan. 4 o'clock.
Yes, 4 o'clock first step.
Yes, 4 o'clock first step.
What would you call that? The horn.
That's where things will get going. And by the way, this is an on-the-air reminder. Now, Don won't be with us, but is Eric still in the...
No, I think he's left.
Doggone. Okay, this is a reminder to you and to the rest of the crew. You guys got to take the radio equipment from me tonight.
Why? What possible good would that do us?
Well, we'll talk about it off the air. Anyway, so getting ready to wrap up this edition of Nutmeg. Anything from the weekend that jumped out at you, and certainly football-wise, for me, I thought Danbury blew a couple of good chances to get their first win on the year on Friday night. I mean, Stanford all but tried to give the game right back to the Hatters, throwing the ball when they absolutely didn't need to at one point, and the Hatters just couldn't convert.
Right, that game, I thought that game was pretty much a toss-up going in, and the final 13-point game, deceptive. It was a much closer, more competitive game than that.
Yep.
Also, I thought Darien was better than St. Joseph. I didn't think they were 42 points better. That also surprised me there.
That surprised me. Although homecoming and very heavy heart playing in honor of Jim Mulhern, their 12th man who they lost back over the summer. So certainly, sometimes you get those boosts.
Yeah, that does happen sometimes, especially Darien. Darien had jumped out to the lead and then scoring on a crazy play. I don't know if anybody saw that, but then sometimes
I
that
did.
just the wheels just kind of come off and they don't come back on.
I did, and I should have teed this up again. And again, this is anyway. Steve Buno has video of it at at DarienTimes.com. It is worth seeing because what happens is Timmy Graham is back to throw, gets blindsided by a rushing St. Joe's cadet, and the ball almost. Now you can't do the holy roller. Go Google holy roller, you younger sports fans. You'll learn what the holy roller is. You can't advance a fumble like this, but it went in such a way that he fumbles the ball, and eventually it winds up in the hands of Hudson Hamill, who picks it up and runs it in for a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, and then it also sort of had that weird sort of tuck rule-ish type look to it,
Yes.
like the quarterback's arm was back, but not yet coming forward. And you make a big defensive play, you don't expect to have the other team score on it, but that's just a tough break for St. Joe's. They come up on the short end of a 49-7 decision to Darien.
Yeah, and look, right now the Blue Wave, to me, look like they are arguably the best team in the state, with the exception of Southington, and New Canaan's right there. But that's it to me.
Right, and then of course that New Canaan Greenwich game is probably going to determine the West Division champ, and it looks like the winner of that game will play Darien, unless Staples has something to say. That we'll see. Staples and Darien still unbeaten in that Eastern Division. Staples 4-0, Darien 3-0, and then New Canaan 3-0, Greenwich, Ridgefield, Trinity, and Trumbull, all 2-1 in the West Division.
And no harm bringing it up, but we will have Staples and Darien. I believe that's November 13th, or 14th, excuse me, November 14th at 1:30. We will have that game over at Darien High School, so that's a change in the schedule as well. We'll also have New Canaan and Greenwich a week from Saturday at Cardinal Stadium, 3 o'clock for that one. So
Right. I'm curious to see that New Canaan-Greenwich game, because obviously, as we know, Darien with a fairly comfortable win over Greenwich earlier on this year. But, again, new coach, new system with a couple more weeks of practice, a couple of more games under their belt, and a New Canaan team that we don't know is quite as good as Darien. Anything can happen.
And you're staying pretty calm. I noticed the Royals have just tied it up with the Astros, 2-2, fourth inning.
Well, I'm staying pretty calm because it was 2-0.
It was,
and then the Astros have put a couple on the board in the last few innings. So hopefully, Giordano Ventura settles down here because down 2-1 at their place, not a lot of room for error.
And slid into that just as gracefully as Chase Utley did.
Yeah, I said I tweeted my commentary about that the other night.
I saw.
I think the Mets are missing a chance for a promotional giveaway tonight, but that's just that.
Does this mean we'll have to suspend Don for a couple of days of Nutmeg?
Is Don on the phone?
No, he's not on the phone.
No,
he's actually
not
at the
on the
desk
phone.
for once.
I'm right here, yeah.
We might have to. I'm not going to discuss the idea of throwing anything at players, but because I do remember the 90s and 80s at Yankee Stadium quite well.
Oh, yes.
In fact, I remember a pitcher getting hit at before Game 1, I think, with either a battery or it was a baseball that got thrown back in from the crowd. Wild days back then. Citi Field's going to be rocking later.
And since I never pass up the opportunity for a Simpsons reference, here come the pretzels.
Well
a barrage of pretzels knocking down Whitey Ford.
Not a variety of food trucks. Anything else, Donald?
I think that will do it. Just looking forward to an FCAC football tailgate on Friday. This will be, like I said, my first visit to Ridgefield's Tiger Hollow, and apparently in for a thrill.
I think you are in for a thrill, as are you, come Friday.
I've been there before.
I know you have. I'm trying to be upbeat.
But you've never seen me broadcast from there before.
That's true.
Excellent point. All right, little programming note. I'm off tomorrow, so we're all off tomorrow. So basically, you're going to watch this show all over again on Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Okay. With all that said, we're out. See you Wednesday for Nutmeg Sports right back here on the HAN Network. Football on Friday, but we've got soccer coming up here on Monday as we get to watch the Norwalk Bears take on the Fairfield Ludlow Falcons. Game time, 5 o'clock. We'll be with you just before 5. I'm starting to wonder if Eric Gendron's going to be my color analyst today, in fact, but stay tuned. You'll find out who it's going to be. For all of us here at the HAN Network, including the guys right here, Donald Eng, AJ Simonowski, I'm Rob Adams. Enjoy your afternoon. We'll talk to you for soccer at 5. But for now, so long, everyone.
do a lot of running around but get nowhere when you're buying a car? Visit Pamby Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram for the one-stop buying experience and stop spinning your wheels.
When you experience a sports injury, you want to get better and fast. Coastal Ortho Express gives you direct access to orthopedic care quickly. Their physicians are fellowship trained in sports medicine at world-class universities and are also team doctors for area football teams. For specialized personal care of sports injuries, go to Coastal Ortho Express, open Monday through Saturday in the iPark building, 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk, or coastalorthoexpress.com. Coastal Orthopedics, keeping you on the move.
The fall bite is heating up. Albies, bonita, blackfish, alligator blues, and stripers are following the large schools of bait in the Long Island Sound. This is the time to visit the New England coast, and the Dock Shop can get you outfitted with the latest fishing gear, jackets, hats, gloves, and fleece. Boater, beach bum, fishermen simply love the New England coast. This is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, now in 2 locations, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
Back to school means back to busy, and Stewart's Market can save you precious time by stocking all of your favorite essentials under one roof. For a healthy start to school, we have all the ingredients. Walter Stewart's, your family-owned fresh local market, 229 Elm Street and at stewartsmarket.com.